Hello everybody, so welcome back to Jim Bob's Garden. Alright, so today what I want to do is I want to talk about some of my favorite fall garden plants. The different plants that I have planted and some of the reasons why I like them and how we use them. I'll go through and just talk about all of them as we go along. But for those of you who like to go into a video, see what's what, and be done and over and go back to doing what you're doing, let me give you a quick list. So I have talked before about, grow what you eat what you grow. Okay, and so these are the ones that I always try and plant for various reasons. Again, like I said, I'll go in more in depth as we go along. All right, so my list is as follows in no particular order, just as I happen to think of them. But it's bok choy, tatsoi, kale, both regular and curly, black-seeded Simpson, collards, chard, broccoli, beets, carrots, burgundy lettuce, mustard greens, cilantro, onions, and garlic. That is my top 14 fall and into spring garden plants that I like to plant. Okay. Now, some of these things I have a variety on. Most of them, however, I do not. They are just the plant. Either I have planted them a long time ago and just kept collecting seeds and basically lost the variety that I originally planted, or I just don't remember and don't know. Okay? So variety to me is really not as big a deal, though some varieties are better, like with lettuce and so on. But the plant itself is what is good. You can try different varieties, see what you like, see which tastes better to you, and then go from there. But these are the things that I highly recommend everybody grow in their garden. They are my favorites. And we're going to go around each one, garden plot by garden plot, and we'll talk about them as we go. Alright, one I forgot to add, and I should, is radishes. That'll be a bonus one. Alright, but let's first talk about tatsoi and bok choy. So this is bok choy and this is tatsoi. Bok choy is a type of cabbage, I believe. Okay, but it's a very, very tasty plant. We use it mostly raw in salads. Some people like to cook with it and make Asian food with it, but we'll just use it as cut and come again, and we'll just keep chopping leaves. I've got one over there in my strawberry patch that I've been cutting on and eating on for a long time. This is a plant that usually does better in the fall, typically. However, I grew some over here in my shady area where I got a little bit of afternoon shade, and it grew actually pretty well throughout the summertime. So I'm going to be doing some more of that and see if I can keep it. Like, this is in full sun. In our Florida, hot sun through the summertime will burn it up. Tatsoi, kind of the same type of deal, but it is a very delicious plant that makes small leaves, and they're very reminiscent, to me at least, of spinach. Now, I can't grow spinach, and I'll show you more about that later. I can't grow spinach to save my life, okay? When we first got here, we grew spinach just fine, but now, I don't know. I just cannot get it to grow. Behind that, this is another, I guess, bonus, is the daikon radish. Now, daikon radishes, there's a lot of different things you can do with them. We've tried them cooked, didn't really care for them cooked as much, but man, they're really good raw. If you get a nice big radish, and we'll cut them down into like slivers, I don't know, like, just almost like French fries, and just eat them raw like that, or we'll dice them up and put them in a salad. Fantastic thing. They're also really good for your garden, because what they do is they'll punch a hole down into your garden and pull stuff from the bottom up to the top. All right, and it's a really good crop for that. And a lot of people use them as a cover crop for the wintertime. So behind that is the thousand-headed kale. This is a new variety for me, but they're making really big leaves that are really nice to cut up. It's got a good taste. For kale, it's not real kale-y. Like, I like lacinato kale because it grows good for a long time. But the only problem is it does have a lot of that kale taste. All right. Same thing with the Red Russian and various other varieties. This so far, but you know, the plants are still young, but this so far has seemed to be a very tasty variety that's growing really large leaves. So far it's been really good. All right, and we'll see how that goes along. All right, and then we'll go over here to the other side. All right, so in here you see my garlic. Now, I got to say, just as an aside, and we'll talk more about this later as things get a little more time to grow up, but the garlics that I put in the fridge, vernalized them in the refrigerator, you know, basically got them cold, kept them there for, you know, I think it was 6 to 8 weeks, something like that, have all sprouted much quicker. All right, the ones that I went and bought at Walmart and just stuck in the ground, they are now finally sprouting up, but not all of them have sprouted yet. But garlic, man, we use a lot of garlic. We really like the taste of garlic in our food. So we use that a lot. So that's why I've got, I don't know, a bunch. All right, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times 5, I got about 100, plus or minus a few, planted. So far, I've probably got 40 or so that have sprouted. But I'm seeing some small ones that are just now starting to sprout back up. So they will be coming along as we go. And then behind me, up in here, as you can see, these are my chives. Now the chives, we use some. We don't use a lot of the chives, but they are good. They're the onion chives, and they are really good as a spice in certain dishes. But even better is they are a pest deterrent. All right, we like them a lot. And then when they flower in the spring, they bring in a lot of pollinators. The pollinators just love the chive flowers. All right, and then back over here in that corner, that's not really a fall garden item, but it is doing fantastic. That is a Genovese basil, okay, that has just gone absolutely crazy. We've cut it back multiple times, and we use the basil in pesto, on pizzas, and various other things. It's a great spice to have in a plant to have grown in your garden. But that one particular plant has just gone crazy. So, you know, good on it, and we'll keep harvesting it and keep making pesto until it finally dies off. They typically won't last through the winter. At least that's been my experience so far. All right, let's go to the next plot. All right, here you're looking at my lettuce. Now this is the black-seeded Simpson. It is a fantastic lettuce, very light, very delicious in my opinion. Grows great. It's been one of the best producers here. Out of all the different lettuces I've tried, and I tried a bunch of them, it has produced more and better than any other lettuce that I've grown. Okay, we've tried everything from romaine lettuce to butter crunch lettuce to a couple other varieties I can't even remember. And like I said, by far and large, this is the best producing lettuce that we have gotten. And all of this is from my own seed. Okay, so I really like it. It will produce all the way into May, maybe June, depending. But once it starts to get, you know, pretty warm, it will actually start to bolt out, and we won't be able to get any more of this anymore. And then behind that, we have my beets. Now, I've never had a lot of luck with beets. I want to say the first year that I planted in these gardens, it did pretty well, but after that, for some reason, it just hadn't really taken off. But they are good. We like to eat them raw. We might pickle a few, but I don't know, we'll see how many we get. Typically, we just get enough to where we can, you know, cut them up and eat them raw in salads, which is really good. I mean, I like them raw. They taste pretty good. These are the Detroit red beets. I do know the variety on that. Now, on this side over here, I have the burgundy lettuce. It's just a burgundy lettuce. There are several different varieties of burgundy lettuce, but the red lettuce seems to do better as things start to warm up. It's a really nice addition to your salad. Gives you a little bit of color and a little bit different taste. Not a whole lot, but a little. And I really like it for that, and the fact that it will continue to grow after my black-seeded Simpson has died back. Though not by a lot, but you know, I'll get a few more weeks of lettuce production off of the burgundy, like I said, after the black-seeded Simpson dies back. Then over here, probably can't see them, but there's a line along here of baby bunching onions. Now the bunching onions are fantastic. We just use them for the greens. All right, and it's nice to be able to come out and harvest, and they'll grow back, and you harvest some more, and then they'll start expanding and growing more. And we use that for everything from cooking to if you don't have regular onions that are big enough, you can put these on burgers. The green tops, they still taste like onion. We make dips with them a lot. My wife likes to dry them and turn them into dust basically, and then mix it in with sour cream and make our own onion dip. Really good, that with some mustards and so on. All right, and then let's talk about what I've got going on right here, which I just planted up yesterday, so you won't be able to see anything here. But what I have is another variety of lettuce here, which is lettuce de Russie, which is kind of a speckled burgundy lettuce with most of the plant, it appears like being green. Haven't grown it yet. I did try planting it one other time, didn't get anything to sprout, so we're going to see if it makes it this time. And then next to that is going to be some cilantro. The cilantro is fantastic. We have had a ton of cilantro in the past, and basically we grew it all over the yard, and then it would just, the seeds would, would bolt out, make seeds, the seeds would fall, and we just keep getting it year over year over year. But then there was that one year we would let everything kind of the weeds got carried away, shaded everything out, and all that died back. So now hopefully I'll be able to take some of the plants out once I get them, though cilantro makes a really deep root. Okay, sometimes hard to get it out, but this is nice fine soil, so it shouldn't be a problem. But I'm going to try and probably take some of these plants and I'm going to start planting them out into the food forest areas again, so that we just have it coming back up wild. Basically my own weed selection. All right, because if you're going to grow weeds, might as well grow weeds you like to eat. All right, let's go over here on this side. All right, and on this side I've got a couple different things. One thing I've got is my garlic chives, which are right here. Probably just barely see them, but I've taken those and separated them out from a bigger bunch I have in the back, and they have continued to grow. They seem to withstand the wintertime just fine. They just keep growing. They're the fantastic substitute for garlic. All right, it's a very garlicky chive. Makes a flat leaf, like so. It smells very much and tastes very much like garlic. Not quite as strong as regular garlic, but if you don't have enough garlic like we did this year, we've used the garlic chives, and once again the wife dries them and turns them basically into garlic powder. Okay, then along here I just planted, and of course after I planted, some stray dog come running through, walk through my garden, all up in where I planted. So we'll see if anything comes up. But I planted one of my favorite radishes other than the daikon, and that would be the French breakfast radish. And then along here I had some chard seeds, and that's where I'm going to try and grow my chard this year. Now this chard is a multicolored variety, a rainbow chard, so to speak. There are multiple colors of chard. Now if you have people who are finicky, like my daughter's a bit finicky with her greens, you probably find that the white chard, the one with the white stems, is a little less flavorful. All right, and so she seems to like that a lot better. If you're more of a spinach person, then that's it, the white chard is a good spinach substitute. But I really like the color and I like the taste of the chard in a salad. All right, and in this garden bed I have several things. I had some leftover bok choy plants, so I put some bok choy in there. And then here, this is more of that 1,000-headed kale, all right, which again has been pretty tasty so far. Though this plant here, I don't know, man, it's just not wanting to grow. I don't know what's going on with that. But behind that we have cauliflower. And then interspersed in and amongst the plants, I have some spinach. And I grew the spinach in pots and then transplanted the pots into the garden, and nothing is happening. All right, it's just not growing. It doesn't like it. I mean, we've had cool days. It hasn't been excessively hot. I don't know. I don't understand why it won't grow. But yeah, it does not want to grow. And then here in this line right here, I have my carrots. That's my first planting. Then my second planting of carrots is right here, and I'll put a third planting down that way, so that way I'll have a succession of carrots, and I'll plant some more in some other spots. I'll find some other places, though I don't know where. Though I do have another garden bed once I clear out all my sweet potatoes, where I'll be able to go ahead and prep up that soil and start adding some more stuff into that. All right. Oh, and then I want to talk about this. Now, I've talked about it before, but I know a lot of people talk a lot about purslane. You know, it's hard to find purslane. I like purslane. I want to grow it in my garden, but I can't seem to get it to grow well. I don't understand, because this is a weed here. I literally have never planted purslane in my garden. We've checked it several times, tasted it. It tastes good. It's actual purslane, but it's a weed. All right. I mean, it's good, but I don't have to plant it because it plants itself. It's another one of those perennial crops, so to speak. So if you like purslane, move to Florida. We got tons. All right. So let's see. We've talked about just about everything on the list, I think. Oh, and then the onions. This back here, this whole bed is covered in onions. Now, they're really small yet. You know, about yay long, about the size of half of my hand. All right, they're just now starting to grow up. I planted them in starter pots, and then separated them out and planted them out. And I want to say the last time I counted, it was like 150 onions that are planted in this plot. If half of those grow, I will have 75 onions. I planted them last month, but if you want to plant onions now, you still can. You just need to either get the sets, which is just a small plants, kind of like this, or you get the what do they call them? Can't remember what they're called, but they're the small onion bulbs, and you plant those that are kind of dried up, and you can just take those and plant them in the ground. All right. And you can also plant like onions that start to sprout in your fridge. You can plant those as well, but what they will do is they will come up and they will seed out. You can still eat the onion at the bottom, but it's going to be not quite as good, and it's not going to get a big fat bulb on it like what you're wanting for a long storage onion. Most of this should be, well, all of this is short day onion, because this is all seed that I got from my onions. They're all short day, and they're either the purple onions or the Texas Granos is what they should mostly be, is the Texas Granos. All right, that's a short day onion, because by the time the days get long for us, it's going to be too hot and the onions will stop growing. All right, but that's what I've got going on. These are the favorites that we like the most in our salads, the favorite vegetables that we have. You know, this is what we grow because that's what we eat. All right, and then I want to cover one more thing, which I'm going to come over here, and that's some fruit. All right, and this is my strawberry patch. This is the bok choy I was telling you about. We have cut it and come again on this multiple times. We just keep going after it, and it's making a big fat stalk at the bottom. You know, it's about that big around or so. Can't really see it too well. But we've been munching on this all summer long, and it just continues to keep growing. Now I have my cage here, which is on a hinge. Okay, so I closed this up, and I had just some regular screening that I have for my pool enclosure. And that screening was actually basically the old screen that I removed when I had to repair a bad screen. And then I put it over the top of this to give it some shade, and so that little bit of shade seems to have helped these to grow. So I'm thinking about some different methods of providing a little more shade. But then we have our strawberries, like I said, and you can see they're already starting to bloom out. We've got a couple of really small strawberries, and they've been producing a little at a time pretty much all summer. And well, spring, of course, is when the big chunk comes, but throughout the summer we've gotten a few here and there. But we've also produced a lot of plants off to the side from runners. And so what I'm going to be doing today or tomorrow is I'm going to take these runners, I'm going to decide which ones I want to pull up, and I'm going to take them and plant them throughout the garden so that I can get a second crop of, more plants basically from my existing plants, and use that to fill it in. And eventually, hopefully, I'll get this bed to where it's completely covered by strawberries. But I haven't had that great of luck with it when it comes to that. We've gotten a lot of good strawberries, and in the springtime, usually we'll come out here and we'll get a handful daily. Okay, but it just hasn't really covered in. Like, I remember when I grew up in Kansas, strawberries were a problem. You had to cut them back or they would take over your yard. But here, it hasn't been nearly as invasive as I'd hoped it would be. Though we are getting some spread. I'm gonna continue to try and see what happens. I'm probably gonna put a little bit more compost down to help with the fertility and get it going. Now, this does get some sun. I know it's in the shade right now, but it does get sun in the morning and sun again in the late afternoon. But that's why I removed the shade, for the shade cloth from the top, is because I don't need the shade now because it doesn't get a whole lot of sun. Come springtime, when the sun starts moving back towards the north, we get a lot of strawberries out of here. All right, it's been very effective. I've had strawberries in this bed now for about as long as I've had the beds, which is going on. It's got to be 8 or 9 years. I can't remember for sure the first time we did. I think it was 2017, so 9 years. Yeah, it'll be 9 years this coming. Well, actually, we put them in 9 years ago. We've had strawberries in this bed probably, 8 or 9 years, one of the two. And it's continually produced strawberries. As long as I keep it moist and so on, it seems to do just fine. All right, but those are my favorites. All right, all the things that we like to eat, and so we're growing them in our garden. If you don't have a fall garden going, you still have time. Like I said in the last video, our projected first frost date varies. I want to say it's like a 50% chance the first part of December, but it's like 80% chance once you get into like mid-December. So mid-December-ish is probably when you're really looking at our first frost. And then middle of February is usually the last frost, but that can go all the way into March. It just kind of depends on the weather, and again, like I said last time, we get these fronts that get pushed down, and if they're cold front and get pushed down into Florida, we'll get a cold snap. And I've seen it as low as 20 degrees. Most of what is growing right now will take temperatures down into the 20s as long as it doesn't last too long. I am going to try and do better this year of checking that and just kind of seeing, what survives well and what does not at the various temperature ranges. Now, I'm hoping we don't get down into the 20s because we have a lot of things that don't really like that. It's hard on citrus trees and so on. And I think we've only had it once or twice in the entire time I've lived here in this area. My old house was down at the beaches, and so we hardly ever got down, even to freezing, let alone sub-freezing. 32 was about as low as it ever got, maybe 30 degrees. Very rarely ever does it get 20 degrees out there by the beach. Because, when I used to ride my motorcycle, I would go across the intercoastal, and about half a mile before you get to the intercoastal, you can feel the difference in temperature. I mean, it's a noticeable difference on a motorcycle. When you're riding along, when you're inland a bit, and you're moving across and you get close to that intercoastal, you can feel the temperature go up. It actually, probably 5 to 10 degree difference between the coastal area. And here we're probably 11 or 12 miles from the actual beach. All right, so we've got a ways before we get to that point. So we get the colder temperatures here where we won't at that house at the beach. All right, anyway, that's what I got going on. These are my favorites. That's what I like to grow. Thanks for stopping by. Do me a favor, give me a like and subscribe, and let me know what you think. And for the first time, I'm going to have shirts, and I will link the link to the shirts. Well, not the first time. We had shirts before, didn't really sell. Had some issues. We had to change our setup, basically. So we have shirts, and we're going to have coffee cups here very shortly. All right. All of that is available. The shirts are available now. The coffee cups should be by the end of the day. And I will put the link in the description below. So if you're interested in buying some merch, then you can do that there. All right. Once again, thanks for stopping by. Do me a favor, give me that like and subscribe. Don't forget about me. Make a comment. That helps too. But most importantly, grow something. Get something growing in your yard. man, it's just fantastic to be able to come out here and gather a salad pretty much anytime you like. All right, y'all come back and see me. And like I said, grow something.